The Velathren Dominion had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 3,000 years. They had conquered 17 star systems. They had enslaved dozens of species. And they had done it all with a single, simple trick that never failed. They sent fake distress signals. It was beautiful in its cruelty. The Velathrons would find a young species, one that had just discovered faster-than-light travel. They would study them from afar. They would learn their languages, their customs, their weaknesses, and then they would broadcast a cry for help. A colony in danger. A ship losing power. Children trapped in a burning station. The details changed, but the result was always the same. Compassionate species rushed to help. They sent their best ships, their bravest crews, their most advanced technology. They came with open hearts and extended hands. They found only death. The Velathrons would hide. Their war fleets behind moons and inside asteroid fields. When the rescue ships arrived, they would spring the trap. Hundreds of warships would appear from nowhere. Neural capture beams would freeze the crews where they stood. And then the processing would begin. The Velathrons did not eat their captives. They did something worse. They converted living beings into biological fuel. The screaming bodies of 1,000 species powered the Velathran war machine. Their pain became energy. Their fear became conquest. No one had ever escaped to warn others. No one had ever fought back successfully. The trap was perfect because it exploited the one thing that every advanced species shared: kindness, empathy, the desire to help those in need. High Sovereign. Yelthin Ix sat upon his throne aboard the flagship. Infinite subjugation. He was old, by Velathran standards, nearly 400 years. His carapace had darkened a deep purple with age. His 4 eyes still gleamed with cruel intelligence. He had personally overseen the conquest of 6 species during his reign. Today, he would add a 7th. His war council gathered before him in the massive command chamber. Admirals and generals and intelligence officers, all dressed in the black armor of the Dominion. They had been studying a new species for nearly a decade. Now they were ready to strike. "Show me the prey," Yelthin commanded. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It displayed a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. The planet was covered in water, in green land masses and white clouds. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. "They call themselves humans," the intelligence officer reported. "They call their world Earth. They achieved faster-than-light travel approximately 40% of their years ago. They have expanded to 12 colony worlds. Their population numbers roughly 18 billion across all settlements. Their military strength?" asked Admiral Korath, the fleet commander. "Primitive by our standards. They have approximately 300 warships of various sizes. Their weapons use kinetic projectiles and focused energy beams." "Nothing we have not seen before?" The council members made sounds of amusement. 300 ships. The Velathran Dominion commanded over 2,000. This would be easy, but the intelligence officer continued, and his voice carried a note of caution. "There is one complication. High Sovereign. The Galactic Concord has classified their homeworld as a Class 7. Deathworld. The humans themselves are rated as Category 1 Deathworlders." Silence fell over the chamber. Even Yelthin leaned forward with interest. Deathworlds were planets where life should not exist. Planets with crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, poisonous atmospheres, or constant natural disasters. The beings that evolved on such worlds were different from normal species. They were stronger, faster, more resilient. More dangerous. Class -7 was nearly the highest rating possible. "Explain," Yelthin ordered. The hologram shifted to show data about Earth. "Their gravity is 30% higher than galactic standard. Their atmosphere contains 21% oxygen, which is nearly corrosive. Their planet experiences constant seismic activity, volcanic eruptions, and violent weather patterns. Temperature variations across their world exceed 100 degrees.
Oh.
More data appeared. The humans themselves evolved as persistence predators. They hunted by chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They can run for entire days without stopping. They heal from wounds that would kill most species. They can survive in almost any environment. and they had been fighting wars against each other for their entire existence as a species. Admiral Korath dismissed this with a wave of his armored hand. Physical strength means nothing against neural capture technology. Once we freeze their crews, their muscles will not save them. The Admiral is correct, agreed General Vreth. We have captured Deathworlders before. The Krathani were classed for, and they fell just like everyone else. Compassion is the weakness we exploit, not physical power. The intelligence officer bowed his head. Of course. I merely wish to provide complete information. Yelthin considered the data for a long moment. The humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also young. They had only been traveling between stars for 40 years. They had no idea what waited for them in the dark corners of the galaxy. They had never faced a predator like the Velathron Dominion, and most importantly, they would respond to a distress call. They had done it before. Dozens of times, human ships had rushed to help stranded vessels and damaged stations. They were exactly the kind of species that fell for the trap. Prepare the signal, Yelthin commanded. Use the standard template. A colony on the edge of their territory. Seismic activity threatening to destroy the settlement. Desperate calls for evacuation. Make it convincing. Which system shall we use for the ambush? Admiral Korath asked. Volanthi system. It has a large gas giant where we can hide the fleet. 200 warships should be sufficient for 12 colony worlds worth of rescue vessels.
Oh.
The council members nodded in agreement. 200 ships was overwhelming force. The humans would send perhaps 10 or 20 vessels at most. They would be surrounded. They would be captured. They would be processed. Yelthin smiled, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Begin the broadcast immediately. I want to see these Deathworlders kneeling before my throne within the month. The signal was crafted with care. The Velathron communications experts had intercepted human broadcasts for years. They knew exactly how humans spoke, how they expressed fear, how they begged for help. The fake colonists sounded perfect. Their terror was convincing. Their pleas for rescue would touch any compassionate heart. The signal screamed across the void at the speed of light. It entered human space. It was detected by listening posts and patrol ships and communication satellites. It was analyzed and verified and forwarded up the chain of command. Somewhere on a human warship, an alarm began to sound. High Sovereign Yelthin IX settled back on his throne and waited. He had done this 100 times before. The trap was perfect. The prey would come, and the Velathron Dominion would grow stronger. He did not know that he had just made the worst mistake in the 3,000-year history of his empire. He did not know that. The humans had a saying on their death world, a saying, born from 10,000 years of being both predator and prey. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. The Velathrans had built their empire on the assumption that compassion made species weak. They were about to learn that humans had compassion and something else. Something the Velathrons had never encountered in any of their victims. Suspicion, Captain. Elena Vasquez was drinking coffee in her quarters when the alarm sounded. She set down the cup immediately and moved toward the bridge. After 15 years in the United Earth Navy, she knew the difference between a drill alarm and a real one. This was real. The bridge of the UES Manifest Resolve was already buzzing with activity when she arrived. Officers sat at their stations, screens glowing with data, voices calling out information in the controlled chaos of a crew responding to an emergency. Vasquez ordered as she took her command chair. Lieutenant Commander David Okonkwo turned from his console. He was a tall man with dark skin and serious eyes, the ship's senior intelligence officer. We received a distress signal approximately 7 minutes ago, Captain. Origin point is the Velanthi system, roughly 2 days' travel at standard FTL speed. What kind of distress? Colonial emergency. They claim to be a research settlement experiencing catastrophic seismic activity. Approximately 4,000 civilians requesting immediate evacuation. The signal includes visual and audio recordings of the destruction. Vasquez nodded slowly. Rescue missions were part of their duty. The Manifest Resolve was a patrol cruiser, armed and armored, but also equipped for search and rescue operations. They had pulled survivors from burning stations and crippled ships dozens of times, but something made her hesitate. "Show me the system data," she said. A holographic display appeared before her chair. The Valenthi system was small and unremarkable. 1 yellow sun, 3 rocky planets, 1 gas giant. No record of any human colony in the area. Lieutenant Commander Vasquez said carefully, "I don't see any registered human settlement in that system." Okonkwo's expression grew troubled. "Neither do I, Captain. I checked the colonial registry twice. There is no official record of any research station in Valanthi. However, there are occasionally classified installations that do not appear in standard databases. Get me Fleet Command. Priority channel." The communication took several minutes to establish. Faster-than-light communication was expensive and energy-intensive, but distress situations demanded it. Eventually, the weathered face of Admiral Chen Weiming appeared on the main screen. He was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes that had seen too many battles. "Captain Vasquez, I assume this is about the Valenthi signal." "Yes, Admiral. We received it 7 minutes ago. But I have concerns." Chen nodded. "So do we. We have no record of any installation in that system, civilian or military. The signal simply appeared, broadcasting on frequencies that were specifically designed to be detected by human ships." "A trap?" Vasquez asked directly. "Possibly. Intelligence is analyzing the signal now. But we cannot simply ignore a distress call. If there are civilians in danger, we have a duty to respond." Vasquez understood. That was the problem. Humans could not turn away from suffering. It was built into their nature. Even the possibility of danger could not outweigh the certainty of people dying. They did nothing. But humans were also survivors. They had clawed their way to dominance on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They had fought wars against each other for thousands of years. They had learned, through blood and pain, that not every outstretched hand was friendly. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Chen was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was hard. "Captain, you will respond to the distress signal, but you will not go alone. I am dispatching the 14th Expeditionary Strike Group to join you. 12 vessels, including the Dreadnought, Perseverance, and a full complement of orbital drop Marines." Vasquez felt a chill run down her spine. The 14th was not a rescue force. They were a hammer designed to break enemy fleets. Sending them meant that Fleet Command expected a fight. Additionally, Chen continued, "I am placing Solcom on alert. If the 14th goes silent, Earth will know that something hostile has made contact, and we will respond accordingly." Solcom. Solar Command. The final defense authority for humanity's home system, the most powerful military force in human space. If they were being alerted, this was serious. "Admiral, we will rendezvous with the 14th and proceed to Valenthi together." "One more thing, Captain." Chen's eyes met hers through the screen. "If this is a trap, if someone is using false distress signals to lure ships into ambushes, I want to know everything about them. Their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses. We have encountered many species since we left Earth. Most have been peaceful, but we always knew that someday we would meet predators." He paused. "If that day has come, we need to be ready." The communication ended. Vasquez sat in silence for a moment, processing everything. Around her, the bridge crew waited for orders. They had heard the conversation. They knew what might be waiting for them. "Navigation," Vasquez said finally. "Set course to rendezvous with the 14th Strike Group. Best speed, course laden. Captain, tactical, I want all weapon systems checked and ready. Full combat load." "Already in progress, Captain. Communications, send a message to the distress signal. Tell them help is coming." 2 days. As her crew worked, Vasquez considered what they might be flying into. If this was a trap, it was clever. Using distress signals meant that compassionate species would come running. It meant they would come with rescue ships, not warships. It meant they would come with hope, not suspicion. But humanity was different. They had compassion, yes. They helped those in need. But they also remembered every lesson that their violent history had taught them. Trust, but verify. Hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. And never, ever assume that a stranger means you well. The rendezvous happened 8 hours later. The Manifest Resolve dropped out of FTL to find the 14th Strike Group waiting in formation. 12 ships hung in the darkness of space. At their center was the Perseverance, a dreadnought nearly 2 kilometers long. Its hull was covered with weapons, batteries, and armor plating. It was not a ship built for rescue. It was a ship built for war. Captain Vasquez was transferred to the Perseverance for a briefing. She met with Captain James Morrison, the dreadnought's commander, and Colonel Sarah Chen, who led the Marine contingent. They reviewed the data together. The signal is fake, Morrison said bluntly. Intelligence confirmed it. The seismic readings do not match the planetary composition of any world in the Valenthi system. The voice patterns show signs of synthetic generation. Someone created this signal specifically to lure us in. Do we know who? Vasquez asked. Not yet. But we are going to find out. Colonel Chen leaned forward. Her face was hard, and her eyes were cold. She had fought in 3 colonial conflicts and earned a reputation for ruthless efficiency. My Marines are ready. If someone is hunting our ships, we are going to teach them what a mistake that is. The fleet departed together. 12 warships flying in formation toward unknown danger. Each crew member knew they might be sailing into a trap. Each one went anyway, because that was what humans did. They did not hide from threats. They did not wait for enemies to grow stronger. They met danger head-on and made sure that whatever came next, their enemies would remember the cost. In the darkness ahead, 200 Velethrin. Warships waited in ambush. They had no idea what was coming for them. The Valenthi system was quiet when the human fleet arrived. One yellow sun burned at the center. 3 rocky planets orbited in silence. The massive gas giant sat on the outer edge, its swirling clouds of hydrogen and helium hiding secrets in their depths. Secrets like 200 Velethrin warships. High Sovereign. Yelthin Ix watched from his throne as the human vessels dropped out of their primitive faster-than-light travel. His sensors counted them carefully. 12 ships. Only 12. He had expected more, but it did not matter. 200 against 12 was not a battle. It was a slaughter. They brought warships, Admiral Korath observed. With mild surprise, not rescue vessels. Cautious creatures, Yelthin replied. It will not save them. Are all ships in position? Yes, High Sovereign. The fleet is hidden behind the gas giant. On your command, we will surround them completely. There will be no escape. Yelthin studied the human formation. The ships were holding position near the 4th planet, scanning the surface. They were looking for the colony that did not exist. They would find nothing but rock and dust. Activate the secondary signal, Yelthin ordered. Lead them closer to the gas giant. Tell them the colonists have moved to the emergency shelters on the northern continent. The fake distress signal changed. New coordinates. New, desperate pleas. The humans adjusted course immediately, moving toward the gas giant where the Velethrin fleet waited. Yelthin felt satisfaction warm his cold blood. They were so predictable, so eager to help. When we capture them, Yelthin said to his council, I want their officers taken alive, especially their captains. I want to know everything about Earth, its defenses, its weaknesses, its population centers. Should study their Deathworld biology as well, the intelligence officer suggested. If they are truly as resilient as the reports claim, they might produce more energy than normal species when processed. Yelthin nodded, always thinking of efficiency. That was good. The Velethrin Dominion had not survived for 3,000 years by wasting resources. The human fleet reached the optimal position. They were now surrounded on all sides by the hidden Velethrin armada. There was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. The trap was perfect. Cloak the fleet, Yelthin commanded. All ships. Space itself seemed to shimmer as 200 warships appeared from nothing. The Velethrin cloaking technology was among the best in the galaxy. One moment there was empty void. The next moment there was an armada of death. The human ships stopped moving. Yelthin imagined the panic on their bridges, the terror in their eyes, the realization that they had flown directly into the jaws of a predator. He had seen it 100 times before. "Open a communication channel," Yelthin ordered. "I want them to hear my voice." The channel opened. Yelthin rose from his throne and stood at the center of his command chamber. His purple carapace gleamed under the lights. His 4 eyes burned with contempt. "Humans of Earth," he announced, his voice translated perfectly into their language. "You have entered Velithrin space. Your compassion has led you into our trap, as it has led so many before you. Your vessels will power down immediately. Your crew will surrender for processing. If you resist, you will be atomized where you stand." He paused, savoring the moment. "You have 60 seconds to comply," silence answered him. Yelthin waited. He was patient. He had done this many times. First came the silence. Then came the panic. Then came the begging. 10 seconds passed. 20, 30. Then a human voice came through the channel. It was a woman. She spoke calmly, without fear, without hesitation. "Velithrin vessels. This is Captain Alina Vasquez of the United Earth ship Manifest Resolve. We received your distress signal and came prepared to offer assistance. We now understand that your signal was a deception designed to capture and harm sapient beings." Yelthin blinked. This was not begging. This was not panic. This was something else entirely, the woman continued. "We have encountered predators before. On our own world, we hunted them to extinction. In our own history, we destroyed every empire that tried to enslave us. You are not the first to underestimate humanity. You will not be the last." Her voice hardened. It became something cold and sharp, like a blade made of ice. "You have 60 seconds to surrender your fleet unconditionally. Power down your weapons. Open your ships for inspection. Submit to judgment for your crimes against sapient life. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why our homeworld is classified as a death world." Admiral Korath looked at Yelthin with disbelief. "Is this creature threatening us?" Yelthin laughed. The sound echoed through the command chamber. His officers joined him, their amusement filling the air. 12 ships threatening 200. It was absurd. It was insane. "She's bluffing," Yelthin declared. A desperate attempt to seem strong. "Lock all weapons on the human vessels. Prepare neural capture beams. When their 60 seconds expire, disable their ships and begin processing their crews." "Hi, Sovereign." The seconds ticked away. 55, 56, 57. Yelthin watched the human ships with anticipation. Any moment now, they would realize their bluff had failed. Any moment now, they would power down and surrender. Any moment now, they would become fuel for the Velithrin war machine. 60 seconds passed. The human vessels did not power down. 61 seconds. The largest human ship, the one they called Perseverance, fired, but it did not fire at the Velithrin fleet. The weapon launched past the warships completely. It flew toward the gas giant behind them. Yelthin frowned in confusion. What were they targeting? There was nothing there but clouds and storms and chemical reactions. The weapon struck the upper atmosphere of the gas giant, and the sky caught fire, the hydrogen-helium mixture that made up the giant. Planet's atmosphere was not normally flammable in space. But the human weapon was not normal. It carried something that created heat and pressure and the perfect conditions for fusion. The gas giant's atmosphere ignited in a cascading reaction that spread across thousands of kilometers in seconds. A temporary star blazed into existence. The light was blinding. Every sensor on every Velithrin ship overloaded simultaneously. Screens went white. Instruments screamed warnings. Officers stumbled back from their consoles. Yelthin shielded his eyes with his arms. What is happening? No one could answer. For 3 seconds, the entire Velithrin fleet was blind and deaf and helpless. 3 seconds was enough. When the light faded and the sensors recovered, the human ships were gone. Not destroyed, not fled, just gone from the positions they had occupied moments before. Then the reports started coming in. Human vessels appearing in impossible locations behind Velathran ships, between Velathran ships, using the Velathran fleet itself as cover, and something else was flying through space. Small, armored pods moving at incredible speed, heading straight for the infinite subjugation? What are those? Yelthin demanded. Admiral Korath's voice was quiet. For the first time, it carried a note of fear. At boarding pods. Hi, Sovereign. They are coming for us. The trap had been sprung. But not on the prey the Velathrans had expected. The hunters had become the hunted. The Velathran Dominion had fought many wars. They had faced plasma cannons and nuclear missiles and gravity bombs. They understood combat as a science of mathematics. More ships meant more victory. More firepower meant more death. They did not understand humans. When the temporary star faded and the sensors recovered, the Velathran fleet fired everything they had at where the human ships had been. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds tore through empty space. They hit nothing but void. The 12 human ships had moved, not retreated, not fled, moved. In the 3 seconds of blindness, the human vessels had scattered in all directions. Each ship now sat in a position that made no tactical sense by Velathran standards. They were inside the formation, behind individual warships, using the Velathran's own vessels as shields. Fire. Admiral Korath screamed, "Destroy them!" The Velathran ships tried to target the humans, but every shot that missed would hit another Velathran vessel. The fleet was designed to surround and crush enemies from the outside. It was not designed to fight enemies who were already inside. The human ships were not standing still. They moved constantly, sliding between Velathran warships like predators weaving through a herd. They fired as they moved. Precise shots. Calculated strikes. They targeted weapons, batteries, and engine. Systems and sensor arrays. They were not trying to destroy the Velathran fleet. They were taking it apart piece by piece. "This is impossible," Korath whispered. His screen showed chaos. His ships were hitting each other more than they were hitting the enemy. The human vessels seemed to know exactly where every Velathran ship would be before it got there, on the bridge of the Perseverance. Captain James Morrison watched the battle with cold satisfaction. Every human officer had trained for this moment. They had run thousands of simulations against superior numbers. They had studied every engagement in human history where a smaller force defeated a larger one. Humans had been fighting outnumbered for their entire existence. Against predators. Against armies. Against each other. They had learned that numbers were not everything. Speed was power. Position was power. Knowledge of the enemy was power. And the Velathrans knew nothing about humans. Marine pods have launched, Colonel Sarah Chen reported from her station. 200 Marines inbound to the enemy flagship. Impact in 40 seconds. Morrison nodded. "Tell them to secure the bridge. I want their leader alive." The boarding pods were small armored cylinders designed for one purpose. They carried human Marines through space and directly into enemy ships. The pods had no weapons, no shields, no complicated systems. They were just engines and armor and a door that would blast open on impact. Inside each pod, a Marine waited in powered combat armor. The armor was heavy by human standards and impossible by almost everyone else's. It was designed for a species that evolved on a high-gravity world. A species that could run for days without stopping. A species that had been killing things bigger than themselves since before they invented fire. Sergeant Dora Namdi felt the deceleration as her pod approached the enemy flagship. She was a small woman by human standards, 5 feet 6 inches tall, but inside her armor, she carried enough firepower to level a building and enough strength to punch through reinforced steel. She had grown up in Lagos, Nigeria. She had survived 3 colonial conflicts. She held the fleet record for hand-to-hand combat eliminations. And she was very, very good at her job. The pod struck the infinite subjugation with a thunderous impact. The armor-piercing tip punched through the hull like a needle through cloth. Pressure seals activated immediately. The door blasted open. Namdi was through before the smoke cleared. The corridor was wide and dark. designed for beings larger than humans. Emergency lights flickered red. Alarms screamed in an alien language. And 6 Velathron warriors charged toward her with weapons raised. They were impressive creatures. 7 feet tall with armored carapaces and 4 powerful arms. They moved with the confidence of apex predators. They had killed thousands of captives in the processing chambers. Namdi killed the first one before it could fire. Her rifle barked twice, and the warrior crumpled. She was moving before it hit the ground, sliding under the clumsy swing of the second warrior's blade. Her combat knife found the gap in its carapace. She twisted and pulled, and the creature screamed. The third warrior fired its plasma pistol. The shot hit her armor and splashed away harmlessly. Human armor was designed for a death world where everything was trying to kill you. Velathran weapons were designed for prey that did not fight back. Namdi shot the third warrior in the face, then the fourth. The fifth tried to run. She caught it in 3 steps and broke its neck with her armored hands. The 6th warrior stood frozen. It had never seen anything move like this human. It had never faced a creature that killed with such efficiency. It did not understand what it was looking at. Namdi shot it and kept moving. Behind her, more Marines were pouring through the breach. They spread through the flagship like water through cracks. Every Velathran warrior who tried to stop them died. Every locked door was blown open. Every defensive position was overrun. High Sovereign Yelthin Ix received the reports on his bridge and could not believe what he was hearing. His flagship was being invaded. His warriors were dying. Creatures once third the size of Velathrans were tearing through his ship like it was made of paper. How is this possible? He demanded. They are small. They are weak. They are prey. They are Deathworlders, the intelligence officer said quietly. We should have listened to the classification. The bridge doors exploded inward. Smoke and debris filled the air. Through the chaos came the humans. They were covered in blood and dust. Their armor was scratched and dented, but they were not stopping. Yelthin's personal guards charged forward. These were not ordinary warriors. They were the elite, the best fighters in the Dominion. Each one had killed hundreds of enemies. The first Marine through the door killed 3 of them in 4 seconds. Sergeant Namdi walked through the carnage with the calm efficiency of someone doing routine work. Her movements were fluid and precise. She did not waste motion. She did not waste ammunition. Every action had a purpose. The remaining guards fell back around Yelthin. They raised their weapons. They prepared for a final stand, and an MDI stopped. She looked at the High Sovereign with eyes that held no fear, no anger, no hatred, just cold assessment. Surrender, she said. Her voice was steady. Lay down your weapons, and you will live. Continue fighting, and you will die. This is your only warning. Yelthin stared at the small creature before him. She was covered in the blood of his warriors. She had fought through an entire ship of his best soldiers, and she was offering mercy. He did not understand. Why? He asked, Why would you spare us? Namdi tilted her head slightly. Because we are not you. We do not process prisoners for fuel. We do not hunt species for sport. We came to answer a distress call. We found slavers instead. She raised her rifle. Now choose. Outside the flagship, the battle was ending. Velathran ships were surrendering across the system. Those that tried to flee were hunted down. Those that fought were destroyed. Humans did not enjoy killing, but they were very good at it, and they did not leave threats alive behind them. The Battle of Valenthea lasted for hours. When it ended, the Velathran Dominion's ambush fleet had ceased to exist. 143 warships had been destroyed. Their wreckage drifted through space like broken toys. 38 ships had surrendered, their crews escorted to holding cells by human Marines who treated them firmly but without cruelty. 19 ships had attempted to flee. 14 were caught and disabled. 5 escaped into faster-than-light travel, running home to tell their people what had happened. Humanity had lost 2 ships. 412 souls. Each name was recorded. Each family would be notified. Each death was honored, but humanity had one. High Sovereign Yelthin Ix sat in a holding cell aboard the Perseverance. His hands were bound with magnetic restraints. His carapace was cracked in 3 places. His pride was utterly destroyed. He had ruled the Velethrin Dominion for 200 years. He had overseen the conquest of 6 species. He had believed himself to be the greatest predator in the galaxy. A creature half his size had beaten in single combat. The cell door opened. 3 humans entered. Captain Alina Vasquez, who had issued the counter-ultimatum that Yelthin had laughed at. Captain James Morrison, who had commanded the fleet that destroyed his armada. And a third figure, older than the others. With gray hair and calm eyes, Admiral Chen Weiming studied the fallen emperor with an expression that Yelthin could not read. It was not anger. It was not triumph. It was something colder and sadder. "Hi, Sovereign Yelthin Ix," Chen said. "You and your officers will stand trial for crimes against sapient life. The evidence of your slave processing facilities has been transmitted to the Galactic Concord. 17 species have already requested access to the proceedings." Yelthin raised his head. Even in defeat, some part of him clung to arrogance. "You have won a battle. You have not won a war. The Dominion controls 17 star systems. We have thousands of ships, millions of warriors. You have merely angered us." Jen was quiet for a moment. Then he gestured to Captain Morrison, who activated a holographic display. The image showed a star map. At the center was Earth. Spreading outward were 12 colony worlds. And beyond them, moving through space like a wave of iron and fire, was something else. "This," Chen said, "is the first expeditionary armada. 400 warships currently en route to Velethrin space. This is the second armada. 350 ships, launching from Mars orbital stations as we speak. This is the third armada, assembling at the Proxima shipyards." He pointed to another section of the map. "These are the colony defense fleets being activated. These are the reserve forces being mobilized. These are the civilian vessels being converted to military use." Yelthin stared at the display. There were so many ships, so many fleets, so many arrows pointing toward his home systems. "You sent a false distress signal to lure us into a trap," Chen continued. "You intended to capture our crews and process them for fuel. You have been doing this to other species for 3,000 years. His voice remained calm, almost gentle, but his eyes were hard. "Do not respond to such things with proportional force. We do not slap the hand that reaches for our throat. We cut off the arm. We salt the earth. We make sure that what tried to hurt us can never try again." "You will destroy us?" Yelthin asked. Despite everything, his voice cracked. "We are not you. We do not commit genocide. We do not exterminate entire species. But your dominion will fall. Your slave stations will be destroyed. Your captive populations will be freed. Your war fleets will be broken." He leaned closer. "And you will face justice. Real justice. A trial before the galaxy. Evidence of your crimes displayed for all to see. Testimony from your victims. And then judgment delivered not by us alone, but by every species you have wronged." Yelthin trembled. He had expected death. He could have faced death. But this was something worse. This was humiliation. This was the complete and total destruction of everything he had built. "Why?" he whispered. "You came to answer a distress call. You could have simply left when you discovered the trap. Why wage war against us?" Captain Vasquez answered. Her voice was quiet, but carried clearly in the small cell, because next time it might be real. Next time, there might actually be colonists dying on a distant world. And if we let you continue hunting ships that answer distress calls, someday those colonists will not be rescued. Someday, ships will stop answering because they are afraid of traps. Shh. She met his eyes directly. "We will not allow that future. We will not let predators like you make the galaxy afraid to help each other. That is why we fight. Not for revenge. Not for conquest. But to make sure that when someone screams for help, someone will always answer." 2 days later, Admiral Chen stood before a communication array aboard the Perseverance. Every ship in the fleet was patched into the broadcast. Every allied species had been invited to listen. Every corner of explored space would receive this message. He cleared his throat and began to speak. This is Admiral Chen Wyming of the United Earth Navy. I am broadcasting from the Valanthe system, where 2 days ago, a fleet of Velithron warships attempted to ambush and capture human vessels responding to a false distress signal. Footage of the battle played across the display. Velathran ships decloaking, the gas giant igniting. Human vessels weaving through the enemy formation. Marines breaching the flagship. The Velathran Dominion has been hunting sapient species for 3,000 years. They send false distress signals, capture rescue ships, and process their crews for biological fuel. Today, that practice ends. The humans responsible for this message will ensure that no species is ever hunted this way again. More footage. Slave processing facilities being destroyed, captive species being freed from holding cells, Velethran officers being led away in restraints. To every species that has suffered at Velethran hands, know that justice is coming. To every species that has feared answering distress calls, know that fear is no longer necessary. And to every species that might consider following the Velathran path, that might think of hunting the compassionate and enslaving the helpless, know this. Jin's face filled the screen. His eyes held something ancient and terrible. The eyes of a species that had fought its way up from prey to apex predator on the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. Humanity answers distress calls. We always will. It is who we are. But we also answer lies. And we answer threats. And we answer cruelty. He leaned forward. We are Deathworlders. Our world tried to kill us every single day, and we conquered it. Our own nations tried to destroy each other, and we survived. We have been predator and prey. We have been conqueror and conquered. And we have learned lessons that we will never forget. His voice softened, but did not weaken. To those who suffer, we are coming. To those who would cause suffering, we are coming for you too. And to everyone else, we offer only friendship and aid. Call us when you need us. We will answer. The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, in 1,000 different worlds, 1,000 different species heard the message. Some had been victims. Some had been bystanders. Some had been considering similar paths to the Velethrons. All of them understood. The galaxy had new guardians now. And they would not be gentle with those who preyed upon the weak. The age of hunting was over. The age of humanity had begun.